my computer.
It takes me an hour to get it off the cloud. I kick myself every time I hit the wrong button. Okay, so remember I told you we switched the order of this next few classes. Because we got behind on when the parties threw us off. And we've been catching up. So next week, we're gonna have the 11th, the equivalent of the 11th, it's the 11th class, whenever it is, on building performance. Okay. No, yeah, next Thursday. And then that field trip after that is time here working on building performance things here on campus. Okay. And then we just have a class for alternative building, and then we're into the final part of the grading. So, did you guys bring your text today, hopefully? So, go to 260, 287. Landon, do you ever look at your pipeline email?
No, yeah, sometimes.
Okay, so everybody should look at it every few days. When you're,
It's just I have two different emails, and sometimes like I'll go onto the email, I'll just check it, and I'll forget to switch onto the other one.
so I was looking up your name, I had one of your emails. And then it wasn't working, I wanted to see if you had another one. And you had one, and it had a black guy's picture, that is. Same, it was same name. But no, some people do that. Some students put really weird pictures, like of people of a different race, just to throw people off. Oh, that happens all the time. So I thought maybe you did it, but there's a guy that has, Edenfield, I think it's Ledenfield is another one.
I'll email you.
Okay, okay. Because just, for various reasons, sometimes I do have to get a hold of you and
You're welcome.
it helps. Okay. Everybody there on chapter 15? Let's see what's in there. I got, the handout covers a lot of this and so this isn't, oh yeah. So look at 289, look at that concrete floor. Any of you ever seen polished concrete floors in homes? You see them in stores now, like, Costco did it, and what's the one, what's that shopping center on Fairview? The building store, it used to be Osh, now Miners. They redid their floor in concrete, polished it. They look pretty cool. They fill the cracks with a different color and then they stain it and then they polish it. Except, in a lot of places around the world, they use a lot of concrete throughout the home, like concrete floors, concrete walls. India is all concrete floors, and I never could get used to it because it's hard on your feet, Wood, you wouldn't think wood gives that much more, but it does. Wood floors are a lot more comfortable.
They get cold too, doesn't it?
And they get, see, in India, it's tropical, so that's probably why they have it. It never gets cold. But yeah, wooden places. And what people do, there's two handouts there, Zach. What people do in colder climates, they just put throw rugs on them. Like next to your bed, you have a throw rug, so you can get out and put your slippers on and stuff. So, but I never got used to it, but and then actually, we're gonna look at different building materials tonight and rate them on a green scale. And then we're gonna look at how that works, because if you have ones that different aspects of them are good and bad, how do you decide? So that's an important thing for products and green building, real important thing. So this is a pretty significant unit. And I was looking at the first one in the handout, which I'll get to in a minute, and it's concrete. And so I looked up cement, just to get a thing, and it's interesting, problems with these things. But we're talking about concrete, and they use it as floors, and I got some statistics on how much it's used. It's unbelievable. After water, it's the most used material in the world. Yeah, that's a pretty interesting statistic, isn't it? And it throws out greenhouse gases, so it's a real problematic product And so we've got to get the people, some concrete manufacturers are working on making it more benign, the process, but until we do, it's just killing us. One of the big contributors. This opposite page of the concrete 288, there's a view, and they've got, what's that wood that's holding up the roof called? That triangle? Yeah, truss. So most of you think of trusses as, things you buy and they put them on the roof and cover it up, but you can also have timber frame trusses. That's a nice looking truss, isn't it? And they've got wooden covers. They've got a lot of wood products, which they say, can be FSC certified. And there's on the bottom of that page, there's a recycled glass. That's a real popular thing because you can make, glass that looks really nice when it's ground up and put in terrazzo form. They use aviation glass, which has got a real distinct look. And I guess there's enough old planes that it's actually a product that people use. Okay, so then go to 290 after that. What is embodied energy? That's a really important concept. It takes a certain amount of energy to produce everything that's used to build a house. An energy price tag called this embodied energy. This can include the energy required to extract raw materials from the ground or forest, the energy used directly for manufacturing, and the energy it takes to transport the material and the many steps along the way. So all the energy you use that's used to bring that product to your home adds up. And some have much bigger embodied energy costs than others. And since you're trying to save resources and, there's a whole bunch of things we're trying to do, a lot of times excess embodied energy really works against it. So, and I was telling you the other night, and I'm too lazy to get it back up on the screen, take too much work, but that Living Building Challenge, we look at several of their programs. Remember that? And they've got one called Zero Carbon program. And do you remember me talking about that? I think I mentioned it, but didn't say much. But what they do is they check the embodied energy in all the products that go into the home. So if there's certain products you can't use because it makes the embodied energy too much. So you've got to keep all the embodied energy, the carbon input under a certain amount to qualify for that home. So nobody's going to do that in the right mind, an ordinary developer or builder, because it would cost too much. It's a little too much. It's a little too much for us to do. But there's some people that want to see if they can do it, or they have clients that say, "Yeah, go for it. We've got the money. Let's just see how we can do it." And so it's a program, and they do get people that want to do it. And it's just kind of interesting to see. It also helps illustrate how much embodied energy goes into all the things we use. When we had a smaller population and we were less complex as a civilization, we could just build things, We didn't have to think about all this. But we've polluted the planet. We've started global warming, which is hurting us weather-wise. We've just done so many things because of the amount of people we have and the complexity of our society that now we do have to watch this stuff. And it's really a shame because I know none of you guys even want to take this class. You just want to go out and build. And I don't blame you. When I was your age, they didn't have green building. There wasn't such thing as sustainability. We just went out and built. When we got the railroad ties for the landscaping, we smelled and they smelled like crap. And we thought, well, that's probably bad, but that's as much as we commented on it. Some stuff, would hurt the green pressure treated. Sometimes it would get on your skin and it would sting a little bit. We thought, well, that's probably no good. That's the extent of how we thought about it. But when it starts affecting people's health and children's health and the climate and everything, then we can't ignore it anymore. So this is the result. So we've got to learn this stuff to counter it. So I apologize for the state of the world, but that's the way it is. So embodied energy, really interesting concept. I mean, we never thought about this stuff. Like, who cares what goes into a product? But Something as simple as a rock taken directly from the site and used to make a fireplace has an energy investment associated with it, even if it's only the few calories we burn lifting it from the ground and carrying it to the hearth. But that's certainly a lot less than the embodied energy representing a granite countertop that was quarried halfway across the world. Although they're both stone, one product is more energy intensive than the other. So I used to show YouTubes on quarrying granite in Brazil. When that first came out, or and then also when it's first recognized that highly embodied, mostly because it comes from Brazil, but has to come up in these container ships, which are very polluting. And the manufacturing is not too bad. You know, they blow it up. They use dynamite and big drills and big saw blades, so it's not too bad. Although they probably abuse the indigenous people. If nobody's watching anybody, industry will always abuse indigenous people. That just goes without saying. And if they have eyes on them, like the government or some world organization, you know, then it's fortunate, then they won't do as much. But you know, if you look at does anybody here look at the news every night or every few nights? I mean, you guys are going to school and growing up, so you know you have a lot on your plate, but most of the cable news doesn't cover anything. They're not even covering the Ukraine war anymore. Since Israel we hear zip about Ukraine, and they're still losing bodies and blowing each other up over there. Don't hear anything. But there's there's two stations I listen to. One's called Democracy Now! It's on free speech radio, and you may not get it. I get it with my cable package, and it's pretty progressive, but more than that, it covers international news every day. It covers everything that's going on. So it covers a lot of times. You'll see something about indigenous people that are complaining in the Amazon because the copper miners came in and just dropped mercury in their water, in the river, in their lakes, and they're all getting sick. And they're going, fuck this, you know, this was our land. You guys come in for some copper and you're killing us. And the governments, for the most part, in the past, have just not said anything because they get a cut from the copper and it's important for them. So it still goes on, and indigenous people still, you know, fight for it and get together. So it's something to think about. We're thinking more about that stuff. We started doing it with wood, which is great because that's the biggest building supply. But a lot of these minerals we need for manufacturing come from places where indigenous people live. There are no global standards for measuring embodied energy, nor is embodied energy the only way of comparing the greenness of different building products, but it is a factor, and in general, green builders favor products with a low energy investment over those that someone moved mountains to produce. You know, it's interesting, granite is all over the planet, right? It's a pretty common, and New Hampshire used to have a lot of, in fact, I think New Hampshire's we used to be called the granite state. Maybe it still is. But all of our granite used to come from New Hampshire. Either we ran out or it was cheaper to get from Brazil. Now we get it from Brazil. That's one of the nice things about the artificial countertops that have been out for a while now, 20 years. And like you saw my house, I showed you my quartz one. And they take real quartzite and they just grind, instead of using slabs, they just grind it up and then they pour it into a new shape. So that's got a lot less embodied energy, and it uses less of the natural resource. So drywall, we're going to look at that in our handout, the good and bad of it. We know the good of it. It's like concrete. It's a great product. You know, it's the quickest way to finish a wall. I've got a friend in Temecula who lives right where the fires broke out. You know, I have friends all over. And this guy lives right. It's a little fire, and it's all around his house. And he's building a house and doing it kind of half-assed, but he's running out of money. So he's saying, Patrick, do I need to do drywall? Or can I just put OSB up? And I said, yeah, you can put OSB up. He said, how about the outside? And he said, yeah, you can put OSB as a finished material on the outside too. You know, it won't look as good, but As long,
OSB's more expensive than drywall. Drywall's like $15. OSB's like-
well, yeah, but he has OSB for some reason, maybe for, yeah. But, yeah, so he's asking me all these questions and it's really stretching my mind because I go, well, let's see. On the outside, you have to put something over the OSB like Tyvek or it'll get wet. But, it's good to think about possibilities. Okay, there's paint. See that picture on 294? Did I ask in this last test what VOC meant? VOC, did I ask what that meant? Anybody remember?
I don't think so. You asked about that.
Oh, I probably said, was there a substitute with it with no VOC? Yeah. Look at this, 294. That's a nice little, what do you call it? Hallway? Stairwell? Does anybody not think that's pretty?
Stairway?
Yeah. So look at the white board at the edge of the stair. What's that called?
The trim?
Huh?
The trim?
The trim, yeah. It's generically a piece of trim. It's got a specific name. Anybody know it?
Baseboard.
No, it runs into the baseboard, so it has the same function as baseboard, but it's not called baseboard.
Casing?
Huh?
Casing?
No. So it's called finished stringer. So the things that hold up the stairs are called stringers, right? You design those, and then this is called a finished one because it's on the outside. We don't use it a lot in the West here, but when I lived in New England, that's where it comes from. That's all they ever do. Nobody would build a stairway, even to a basement, without because if you're going up a stair and say you're really drunk and you kick the wall, you're going to kick a hole in the wall next to the stair. So if you have a board there, and it's not going to hurt the house, it's going to hurt your toe, which you deserve for being drunk going up your.
Like drunk proof or what?
It's drunk. So it's actually a nice feature, and back there you learn how to use it and cut and everything. It's really, but I really like the looks of that. It's got wood, it's got a nice yellow, canary yellow color. Then on 295, it says water-based, that picture, water-based finishes. Hey, look at that cabinet. So I love it when they put cabinets together and some are lower, higher than the others. I did that in my bathroom. I think it breaks up the monotony. But look at that center, it's not, I don't think it could be the sink base, we can't tell. But it's got towels in it. I don't know if they could fit those with the drain, but look at the side of that, it's engineered wood, right? Dennis, do you know the name of that? Because it's not a beam. It's like it's probably a plywood. That's got the, anybody know what that could be called? I've never even seen it actually in the store.
Drywall protection?
No, on 295, the middle cabinets, the wood is like OSB, you can see a drain. The side ones are probably bamboo. That's what some types of bamboo look. Or maybe that's bamboo also, right? That could be a type of bamboo.
I think that's just a little tiny layer of some like plastic and heat stuff on there.
Nah. No, because look, it's on both sides because it's on the inside too. And then it's got see the layers on you can see the layers with the veneer.
I think that's it, yeah.
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 Yeah, I know it's a veneer, but I don't think it's plastic. I think it's wood like that. And it couldn't be bamboo. That's kind of nice in contrast to the more. You could look this?
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah,
But they don't make eucalyptus ply. They don't make very interesting plies. Anybody ever been to Mayan Hardwoods and it's Oxnard or I think it's Camarillo, right where they meet there. Nobody's been there. It's in back of the car dealerships and
They have exotic stuff there though.
they do. Have
Yeah,
you been there?
no.
But you've probably
I've
seen
just
it, 'cause
seen it, yeah.
That's where I got the cherry when I first did my kitchen. I just replaced the things and I got a flat cherry. It was gorgeous. It's from China.
Yeah,
And now I wouldn't get it, but then I was, didn't know better, but it was beautiful. And they have a lot of things.
yeah, they have
I've-
a lot.
I've never seen, yeah, if you guys wanna buy hardwood veneer plywood. My hardwood in, it's Camarillo or Oxnard. Is about the only place around, and it's it's more expensive than regular, but it's not exorbitantly high, it's. Cause they don't make a lot of any of that stuff, so it's gonna be a little higher, but you can get really exotic wood. I've never seen eucalyptus, but. People are afraid of eucalyptus. What did eucalyptus ever do to anybody?
The who?
Eucalyptus.
Makes a mess.
I don't know.
Okay, here it says, go to 296. This is a great explanation because it makes no sense whatsoever. Kitchen cabinetry made with wheat board or other formaldehyde-free materials are healthy indoor choices. Do you see a wheat board countertop there?
No.
Do you think it's the front of those cabinets? Yeah, I'm actually the front of those cabinets. Dane, anybody ever seen wheat boards? Ply?
Is it?
What is that?
Do they have it at Home Depot?
I don't know. Wheat board.
Yeah,
Maybe in my
it's
big
beautiful.
bag.
It's a little expensive. And then on 297, the bamboo plywood. What do you think about that backsplash? And actually, what is that backsplash? It looks like bamboo or some kind of plant, but what is it? Just pushed up against white lit glass? I think it's the wallpaper with silver back to it. It's kind of nice. You guys like that? You prefer tiles? Okay. Yeah, look at that on 298, the ice stone countertop. Made with concrete and recycled glass. That's kind of pretty. What do they call that? Terrazzo? Is that the Italian for that design? That's pretty nice, though, huh?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. If you put, like I did on that countertop I was telling you about, which wasn't there anymore in my house. If you put any kind of stuff in concrete, then you can buff it, you can grind it at the end and it'll all show through. You can put anything in. People put all kinds of objects. Yeah, marbles and anything. It'll just grind right out. But that's nice. Terrazzo, the Italians made that. And then look at that, the one up above 299. Now this is an old book. They didn't do a new edition, so this is some years old, and they probably got all kinds of different, newer and better countertops and materials, because it never stops. But that one's a paper with resin in it and then baked. That's kind of interesting looking, isn't it? Almost looks like leather. Yeah. And then the one below, what's that? Stainless steel. Everybody's got that. Oh, here's the tile. What's wrong with tile? What's the problem with tiles? Anybody on page 300?
The ground gets dirty.
Yeah, they crack, but, huh?
The ground gets. dirty.
Yeah, they do crack. That's true. Especially if you're on the, something. But the grout is the big thing. But no matter how much you seal that, it gets dirty. You can clean it, but that's why everybody jumped at solid stone countertops. That was a new thing. And they said, "Oh man, we don't have to clean grout ever again," which is true. But you don't get. Sometimes it looks nice with tile, and you just want to put up with it. That kitchen's a little knick-knacky for me, but. And then they used to make wooden countertops. That was a seventies thing. I don't know what kind of wood that is. It's kind of nice. Anybody know? Is that eucalyptus? William, is that eucalyptus?
Maybe,
301.
have that already.
That's kind of cool. Look at all the greenery. Hey, you know what that big knot hole in the middle of that picture is? That's where the branch split off from the trunk. That's what all knots are. They're places where branches were. Pretty interesting. No, if you get stoned, you could just sit and watch your countertop for 3 or 4 hours. All right. Oh, did I say that on the recording? Oh my gosh.
I'll bring the countertop.
Yeah. Good one. Good one. They know I'm hopeless. By this point, after 15 years, you know, they go back. Just let that guy alone. So on 302. So the top one's some kind of granite or something. It's almost passé now. Yeah, 302. And the bottom soapstone, that's another artificial stone. Well, no, actually soapstone's a real stone.
That's what you grind your feet with, right? Like gloss.
Maybe. So there's a source of soapstone within 100 miles there. Anybody know where it is? Catalina Island. So the Indians used to bring it to the mainland. And because you can carve things, it's soft enough to carve and yet it stays hard. It's really cool stuff. And I guess they make countertops within there. And then concrete countertops, 303, were popular. They went through a phase. Everyone was doing it like 10 years ago. And then it stopped. Now, you know, hardly people don't even talk about it anymore.
Do they pour those right?
They can do two, they can do it both ways. They pour it in place or they can pour it and move it in. The one I did at my house, I did it in place because it was too heavy and I was doing it myself. I couldn't find anybody to help me lift it. I was gonna do it at school and just take it home. They couldn't find anybody to help me lift it. But yeah, you can do it either way. That's kind of interesting looking, huh? The slope sinks look, it looks like a public restroom, you know, the slope sinks look a little kind of industrial, but. Okay, so then 304. They've got linoleum. Of course, that picture you can't see any of it. But linoleum was, we're gonna look at it because on our handout, we've got a sheet on linoleum. The linoleum used to be made from some oil, olive oil. Oh, I'll look it up. No, linseed oil. And it was an organic product. And then the oil industry started making products for America. And they made vinyl. So vinyl is an oil product, cheaper to make. You know, you can just, you know, anything with oil is really cheap to make because oil used to be cheap. And but then people didn't want to use vinyl because they didn't want to keep using oil. So vinyl went out of vogue. And then linoleum came back. They improved it and they have a new linoleum now that looks just like vinyl, only better. And it's real, it wears well. If you ever go to a place that has samples of linoleum, you'd be surprised at how interesting it looks. And bamboo, we've talked a lot about bamboo. Cork flooring. So look at 307. So tonight we're going to look at that movie of the Trout Club House from the ground up. I finally found a copy. And Joe, the guy who does the film, Joe Campanelli, the contractor, he talks about, he uses concrete floors in his basement. He would try to do a green house and he did all the features he could. It was a spec house, he wasn't gonna live in it. So he did all the features he could. So he did a concrete floor and then he said, and then people said, well, carpet, don't they have carpet mites? It turns out that this carpet here, which is usually jute, natural fibers, but jute's one of the, they don't have any bugs in it, they don't live in it. It's just a natural fiber that mites don't like. But have you ever had a jute, usually they can be intricate carpets or things, anybody ever seen those? They're a natural fiber. They're soft enough, they're not like a carpet, you know, so, yeah, I like them, I've used them in my house a lot. And then, of course, in the film, he talks about wool carpets, like Persian carpets are made from wool, you know, they have sheep there and goats, and they make the carpets, and those bugs don't live in that stuff either. And they used to be real expensive, but you can get wool carpets now for pretty reasonable. They've really come down over the years. Santa Barbara used to have a lot of stores on State Street that sold carpets. They always were shady looking. I always thought, what's going on here besides carpets? But
We were looking at countertop.
yeah. Spending too much time with your countertop, that's probably true. Also on 308 carpet squares, they make recycled carpet and they make it in squares, so if something happens to a square, like you spill something, you can't get it off, you can replace the square. That didn't catch on very much, but that's a good idea. Then on 309, there's that wild bathroom with pebble stones. Anybody ever seen a pebble stone bathroom before? That's kind of an interesting bathroom, isn't it? Looks like it's got a black toilet to the left and then the tree. That's in the shower. And, yeah, and then on the ceramic tile, nothing wrong with ceramic tile. That's great stuff.
They're conserving water though,
They're what?
conserving water behind the plant in the shower.
They are. And then on 310, that's a little bit too much wood for me. You can have I think you have too much wood. But that was a big 70s thing too, a lot of wood. We used to make butcher block countertops, you know, and they look nice, they get worn. Some people use the butcher block countertops and they use the butcher block like a cutting board. And after a while, there's all these cut lines. Other people put things on top of it, you know, to cut. Yeah. Okay. Exit the book and enter the Green Building for Dummies. Now, does anybody know why I selected this book, Green Building for Dummies, for this class? Okay. It's actually a pretty good book. I've looked at every green book over the years, and I still think it's one of my favorites. I don't know if they've updated it or not. Some of these guys, the one edition exhausts them, and they don't do another one. But okay, so I try to put the first page of the book so you can order, you know, on the handouts if I can, so you can order the stuff. But then go to the second page there, the back of the first page. Buildings consume, look at that paragraph, a little bit down from the middle. Buildings consume a whopping 40% of the world's materials. The construction of a typical 2,000 square foot home. Does anybody know the size of their home? Home? Anybody live in a 2,000 square foot home? I'm under 2,000. I'm about 1,400, 1,500. So, and a lot even to my house. So that's considered a small house in America. It didn't used to be, but now it is. But for a 2,000 square foot house, it uses 1,300 tons of concrete. God. 13,000 board feet of framing lumber. 6,000 square feet of plywood sheathing. 2,000 square feet of exterior siding material. 3,000 square feet of roofing material. 3,000 square feet of insulation. And 6,000 square feet of drywall. That's pretty amazing, huh? A lot of material. That's why Carol's so adamant about reusing and recycling that stuff, because there's just so much of it. Okay, so they're going to look at this chapter in this book, chapter 5, looks at different building materials, common building materials in construction. So the first one's concrete, and then they do a little checklist after it. And notice that on the next page, 87 or 3, which I was gonna say, it says, here's a look at the life cycle of concrete. So the life cycle means the beginning of not just the manufacturing of it, but anything that went into it, any resource, the mining of that resource. So it's from the birth of the parts and the thing all the way to where, when you stop using it, what you do with it. That's the life of that material. So we're looking at things in a life cycle. So where does concrete come from? Well, you all know, most of you know, it's Portland cement and then aggregate sand and stone. And then you mix it with water, right? So that says good, but this is maybe 10 years old. And anybody know what's happened to looking for the right sand for concrete in the world? That's actually become an issue too. Because apparently they can only use beach sand. There's plenty of desert sand. If they want to use desert sand, they could go anywhere. We got tons of desert, but it needs beach sand for some reason. And so that people are actually raiding beaches and taking that nice sand and making the beaches so crappy to get sand for concrete. So even that's become an issue. So you can't put good, you have to put good minus for that first one. What are the byproducts of making concrete? And we're talking about Portland cement, because that's the only thing we really manufacture. Requires an immense amount of energy, and the byproduct is greenhouse gases. Right? Helps a little. So, as a material that creates the majority of the world's bridges, roads, dams, and construction, concrete releases an extreme amount of CO2. What's CO2? Carbon dioxide, the two die. What's CO? Carbon monoxide, right? Okay. Which is poisonous, but it's not made in a lot of processes like CO2 is. So that's the worst thing, right? Because that's just what we don't want released into the atmosphere. It's the highest consumed product on Earth besides water. That's where I got that. Until the overall emissions are cut worldwide, the environment will continue to be polluted with over 4 billion tons of carbon dioxide annually due to this industry. And I won't go into it, I don't think. But it says solution. So there are companies that are working on it. You know, it would behoove a company to figure out a way to do it without doing that, because then everybody would go to that company. So they're working on it pretty seriously, trying to reduce the. I could show you the process and the chemical things, but it's not necessary. But just the way they have to burn and different things, and then recombine them with things, and burn them again. It takes a lot of energy and you know, but gases are byproducts, and if they're in a manufacturing process, they're usually in a confined space, and they usually go up a stack. So often we can put scrubbers on the top of that stack that deal with the problem. But some industries have never done that, like concrete, cement. You would think, you know, we could figure that out, but it would cost money. It would cost a lot of money, and companies don't want to do it. They don't want to spend money. So that's still a problem. Somebody's going to figure out how to do it where it doesn't. The energy, we can use solar energy, so that won't be a problem. And if we can figure out a way to keep the greenhouse gases will be okay. So back on the checklist on 87. Can be made locally, well. You know, that's a confusing way of putting it. Do you make concrete locally? Yeah, you mix it, right? You make the concrete locally, but the cement usually comes from somewhere else. Probably all the cement in Santa Barbara comes from LA, I would say. Los Angeles has some cement manufacturers. So it's got transportation from there to here, and then it's got greenhouse gases from where it's made. So, and they give it a bad verdict too, so. But they say it's made locally, so that's not quite true. So I would say that's good minus. They have an in-between bad and good. Not so good, very less so. Okay, in terms of how is concrete maintained and operated, it's really easy to work with, right? A lot of us have worked with concrete. It's pretty easy to work with. And then when it's dry and inert, it doesn't give off any gas. It's totally innocent and it lasts for a long time. So in those reasons, it's a really great product. And before we had to worry about greenhouse gases, we were just blessed with concrete. Like, this is great, you know, look at all we can make with it. So what do we do with concrete after it's done? So the last thing's important, but in Santa Barbara, we have a couple of companies that will take concrete rubble. So if you're, you know, at the end of its life, if you're remodeling or you're taking down a house and you got a concrete foundation, you can break that up and take it to Lash or Granite companies. Granite's the name of the company, and they'll recycle it. They grind it up and use it for road beds in their projects. So that's one good thing. Concrete we can get rid of. So except for the way it's made, and if companies don't figure out a better way to make it, the government's gonna have to step in and say, look, you know, this is killing us. We'll give you a couple of years to find a better method, and then you're gonna have to do something else. That means construction will change, right? But I have a theory about that. Anybody want to hear it? Yeah, sure. So I have this film I show in building performance class, but and it's of a shake table. So when we had earthquakes, Simpson Strong Tie, that company that makes all the framing hardware, they invest because they have a monopoly. They charge a lot, and they take that money and invest in good things. So you know, if you're gonna have a monopoly, and it's like.
Will be good with it?
Yeah, if they do something good with it, it's okay. So these shake tables determine when, you know, they mimic earthquakes, and earthquakes come in different configurations. So it's pretty sophisticated stuff. Japan's got a great one too. And so, but we build everything on a solid foundation, right? Concrete into the ground, and then we attach the rest of the wood on top of that. And that breaks sometimes too. But this one video I saw, this YouTube. It was looking at this construction in China, in the what's that place called in Beijing where the emperors used to lose, the Hidden City? Is that what it's called? In the center of Beijing. It's where all the emperors used to live. It's a historical landmark. And they had it was like a temple, a little temple. It was maybe 10 feet by 8 feet. And they wondered why they have all these cantilever things. You ever look at this pergola over here by the things? It's got all those little blocks and things are extent cantilevered. Well, I used to think that was decoration. I built that thing. I used to think it was decoration, but it's not at all. They figured out that if they extend things and have blocks and don't nail anything, but just have them sort of fitted together, then when an earthquake comes, the energy just dissipates down those pieces and won't destroy it. And so they took this temple, they did a replica, and they put it on a shake table, and they inputted the worst earthquake in Chinese history. You know, we have historical records and we can estimate what it was, and they put that to it. And the walls between the posts, like this thing has posts and then a roof, the walls were just made out of infill dirt. They fell down. But the posts, they weren't even connected on the ground. They just had a peg to keep them from moving. And the whole thing shook like crazy and stood up, didn't even fall down. So these Chinese figured this method of not putting rigid thing, but actually having something that can move with the earth. And so I got to thinking about that. And Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect in America, he did a hotel in China, which I'm gonna go see this spring. My wife and I are going to Japan. I mean, in Japan. It was in Tokyo. It's called the I don't know, Tokyo International Hotel or something like that.